Katie from What Katie Did, and today I'm going to tell you why we no longer make fishnet tights or stockings. Seamed fishnet hosiery has always been close to my heart, and when I started What Katie Did in 1999, we used to sell seamed fishnets by Jonathan Aston, and after a while we used to private label them from them, which basically means that we buy their design and it's repackaged so it looks like What Katie Did. And this is extremely common in the world of hosiery. You'll often find hosiery that looks very, very similar from brand to brand, and it will in fact just be private labelled. The seamed fishnets by Jonathan Aston were pretty amazing. They had a really nice sewn seam, and one of the things that bugs me about seamed fishnets is that some brands have like a chain seam, not a sewn seam, and traditionally the seam actually holds the hosiery together. So if you have a seam, you want it to be a nice thick seam, not just a chain stitch, which is just like a little bit of a shadow on the back of your leg. You want a definite seam, or I do definitely anyway. So when Jonathan Aston stopped making those, we were kind of at a quandary for a while, and we started reaching out to fishnet hosiery manufacturers in the UK. Now, to get a traditional 1950s style fishnet, we are going old school. So we were looking at kind of just basically one-man bands, people who've been in the industry for years and years and years, who were still making fishnets, and they had a machine, in a little industrial unit somewhere, and that's basically all they did. We're certainly not talking about a big factory churning out thousands and thousands of pairs a day. We're talking about one person with one machine just making them to order. And over the years, these people retired and disappeared, and in the end we were left with the last remaining fishnet maker in the UK, and we used them for a couple of years, but then we had a couple of issues with quality, and the challenge they had, and also that we had, is we weren't actually selling that many. We were selling a few hundred pairs a year, which for them meant it wasn't worth them spending an awful lot of money on product development for us to sell, £300 or £400 a year. It's just not viable. And the same with the yarn. I would have liked to have a nicer yarn for our fishnets, but again, you have to order in such high quantities for hosiery that we couldn't ask them to invest the money. And we didn't have the money to invest ourselves for something that it was going to take 5 years to sell. So we were kind of at the end of our journey with fishnet manufacturing in the UK there. So after the England's fishnets finished, we looked at Italy, which is where our glamour seamed hosiery is made. And Italy is still a hub of quality hosiery manufacturing, and a lot of huge brands manufacture there. And hosiery manufacturing is still relatively strong there, and they make amazing products. So we'd already had a relationship with people who made our sheer hosiery, our glamour seams, but the fishnets would be made in a different factory, so we didn't have a relationship with the factory that made the fishnets, and they didn't know who we were, and they wanted to basically private label, which they'd give us, they'd make us hosiery to their specifications, which they'd package and that we'd sell. And the fishnets were fine, the seam was fine. They were a lot more expensive than the English version, and they were, we'd have to order several thousand. And the issue here is that several thousand, it would last us 5 years, and we can't have stock hanging around that long. When you've got a business, basically at the end of the year, any stock you've got, you have to pay tax on, because the tax man sees it as money in the bank. So it's not like, I used to see it before I realised this. I used to think, oh great, I've got this stock, that puts me one step ahead for next year. And it's like, no, if you've got stock, the tax man says, well, that actually counts as money, so you pay tax on that. So great. So with the Italian fishnets, we'd have to, if we were selling it over 5 years, then it wouldn't be tax effective for us. We really need a fast turnover. Having said that, I do make concessions to this, and if I really want a slow selling product and I really believe in it, for example, our nutmeg seamed hosiery, then I'll throw that to the winds and I'll just do it. And if the Italian hosiery was absolutely show-stopping and absolutely amazing, then I would have really pushed for it, and I mean, we'd have to push it like crazy online to try and get the sales up, but I would have really tried to do it, but it wasn't good enough to do that. So basically that's the end of fishnets. The second part of this story is 5 years ago. I was meeting friends at Berkshire Hosiery in downtown LA, and Berkshire Hosiery is a bit of an institution for hosiery. They're a little independent store. They're not online. They've got an amazing range of hosiery, and they do little bits of Rago and other lingerie pieces, but mainly it's known for hosiery. And because I was meeting a friend there, I felt kind of compelled to buy something, and I was looking around, and I found some professional dance fishnet tights, and I've always wanted to try them, but they are quite expensive, so I never actually invested in them. So I bought 2 pairs on this day. I bought a skin tone shade and a black shade with a seam, and they've got an opaque foot, and they're made in Italy like most professional dance fishnets are. And they're still going strong. There is a little bit of wear under the foot because that's a nylon weave as opposed to the fishnet, but the fishnets are still fine. So I've had 5 years wear out of them, and why I'm telling you this is because if you do want fishnets, I'd just totally ignore all the fashion fishnets out there and go for the professional dance quality, which come with a really nice sewn seam. The fishnet is an amazing quality, and they do come in a wide range of skin tones, not just light nude and black. They do a range of skin tones now. So that's my advice to you. There is a reason that Madonna and Beyonce are rarely seen out of professional dance fishnets on stage or in videos, and it's because they are immensely flattering, and they really do suck you in and smooth everything out. I took a pair of my fishnets off a couple of weeks ago, and my husband came in and he was like, "What's happened to your legs?" Because they when you take them off at the end of the day, you have the marks from the fishnet like pressed into your leg. It's a bit like, dare I say, sexy Spanx, but yeah, it's got that amazing, it really does wonders for your legs, and I thoroughly recommend them to you. They're definitely worth splurging on. Seamed fishnets were the go-to for showgirls in the 50s, and again, this is really why I love them too. If you were a showgirl in the 50s, you had 2 choices when it comes to legs, and one was to wear seamed fishnets, which were durable and repairable and lasted a long time, and the other choice was to wear fully fashioned stockings, which studios either turned into tights by hand, or they actually had opera-length stockings. And what this means is that they were super long, and they were designed to come right to the top of your leg, and you'd actually have little clips inside the top of your costume, so whether it's a leotard or a bodysuit, and you'd actually clip the stockings up inside, and that would give the look of tights. But obviously with fully fashioned stockings, this is going to get very expensive because they're not very durable at all. So you need a new pair for each performance, which is why fishnets were just so popular. My very favourite fishnet tight look is the one Marilyn Monroe wore when she plays Sherry in Bus Stop, and it's also very important because it's a very important movie for Marilyn and also Hollywood as a whole. Bus Stop was the first movie that Marilyn Monroe made after setting up Marilyn Monroe Productions in the mid-1950s. She was a bit tired of playing the dumb blonde roles, and she wanted to have more control over her career. She actually moved to New York to study under the Actors Studio, which is the Lee Strasberg method acting, which is now known as method acting, and everyone knows about it, but at this point it was pretty new, and method acting means you totally immerse yourself in the role of the character you're playing. You just don't go on stage and do your lines. You think a lot more about how the character would be and what their lives would involve and what the story would involve. And the reason I'm talking about the method side of it is because when it came to her costume and makeup for bus stop. Marilyn Monroe had full control over this, and 20th Century Fox said, we'll make you the costumes and everything. And she said, no, I want to go through and pick out my own costumes. And she went through and picked out this bodysuit, which had been used in previous productions by 20th Century Fox, and it was not bedraggled, but it had obviously been worn, and there's a few sequins missing. And she decided she wanted to show the performer she was playing as she would have been. She would have been, not had a huge amount of money, would have been repairing things, and this went down to her fishnets, which were ripped and repaired, and that was shown on screen. She also toned down her glamour slightly for this role and used very pale makeup because she felt her character wouldn't see very much daylight as she was a nightclub singer. So she does look a bit more drawn and paler than usual, but she still looks absolutely amazing in this movie. Although the critics loved her in this movie, and some people today say it's her finest role, even better than the one she played in Some Like It Hot, which is, one of the best movies ever made. Unfortunately, she didn't receive an award, or wasn't nominated for an award by Hollywood, because Hollywood, at this point, wanted to keep all of its actors and actresses under control and have control over what roles they did, and didn't like them to set up their own companies and have more control over their lives. Marilyn Monroe, at this point, she was featured quite a lot in the press as a businesswoman for setting up Marilyn Monroe Productions, and she really did start a huge change in Hollywood, which we don't hear so much about now. When we hear about the life of Marilyn, we just see the blonde. As you can probably tell, I'm a huge fan of Marilyn Monroe, and especially her look in Bus Stop, which is why fishnets are so important to me. If you do have any questions you'd like me to answer in a future video, please let me know below, and in the meantime I'll catch up with you soon, so take care.